Hi there, this is Steve with O'Hagan Electric. Thanks so much for tuning in for helpful tips and information. Today we're going to be talking about aluminum wiring, and we're also going to be doing a little bit of a class here to let our guys know about aluminum wiring a little bit more. These guys already know a good amount, and they've already worked with aluminum wiring, and they know how to correct it and do the correct things to do with aluminum wiring to make things a lot more safe and code compliant. But this is also going to be kind of a refresher for them as well, and a little bit of a history lesson as well too. Aluminum wiring has been around since the 19th century, so it's been around for the beginning of electricity basically, and they use it in transformers, they use it in overhead wiring, they use it in machines, and so forth. But from the 1960s and mid-1970s, they started using aluminum wiring in households. And during that time, the copper prices were really high, and so they had to go and make adjustments and so forth. They found that aluminum wiring was a very good conductor back in the day. It's been used in residential homes for quite a bit during that time. But nowadays we don't use aluminum wiring. Usually if it's in feeders or if it's in anything from 6 to 8 gauge and bigger, okay? But when it comes to plugs, switches, and lights, the lower wire is not utilized anymore. So, and I'm going to go into that, okay? So I have a little article here, and there's so many articles about this, but I encourage you to always look at this. There are people out here that do have aluminum wiring in their homes because they had a house that was built in the 70s, and it is highly recommended if you do have aluminum wiring to call an electrician and have your home inspected and let you know your options of what you can do to help with the aluminum wiring in your house. Okay, I do have an article I'm going to read. It's from Carson and Dolmaloop of School of Home Inspections, and this is just one opinion on many different kind of opinions out there about aluminum wiring, but this one was a pretty good one, so I'm going to go ahead and read this, and I'm going to go right into it. So,
the true story behind aluminum wiring, Part 1. Aluminum wiring in homes has an interesting and controversial history. We've had lots of clients ask, is it safe? Should it be replaced? The short answer is that it is safe and does not need to be replaced. However, it's good to be aware of some special considerations. Dispelling the myths. We hear regularly that aluminum wiring has been recalled and that it's no longer approved or permitted in homes. Neither of these is true. Aluminum wiring is permitted with the appropriate installation methods and materials. Electrical wiring in homes has traditionally been copper since the introduction of electricity in homes in the late 19th century. Aluminum wiring was introduced to homes in North America in the mid-1960s. The price of copper was very high, and aluminum was a cost-effective alternative. Not as good as copper. Was aluminum as good as copper? Not quite. It was recognized from the beginning that copper is a better conductor of electricity. The manufacturers and the authorities adjusted for that by using slightly larger aluminum wire to perform the same work as copper. Most branch circuit wiring in homes is 14 gauge copper. The equivalent aluminum wire is 12 gauge. Remember though, 12 gauge is larger than 14. The installation methods were exactly the same for aluminum as for copper. The issues. Shortly after aluminum wiring became popular, some problems started to appear. These included flickering lights, warm cover plates on switches and receptacles, and burned insulation on wiring. There was an overheating issue, and overheating can mean fires. They looked into it and found there were 3 other differences between copper and aluminum. One was softness. Aluminum is a much softer metal than copper. Electricians who had always worked with copper found that it was easy to nick, cut, or crush the aluminum wiring when removing insulation or making connections. They had to be gentler. Damaged wire creates local hotspots and results in overheating. 2. Creeping. When electricity flows through wire, the wire heats up. Aluminum wire expands more than copper when it heats up. The repeated expansion and contraction as the wire heated up and cooled caused the wire to creep up from under the terminal screws that held the wire in place. This wire creeping resulted in loose connections and overheating. Number 3, rusting. When metals rust, they form an oxide on the surface. Rust on steel is red, rust on copper is green, and rust on aluminum is white. It's not a big problem when copper wiring rusts, since the copper oxide that forms is electrically conductive. It doesn't interfere with the wire's ability to do its job. When aluminum wire rusts, the white oxide is not a very good electrical conductor. It does interfere with the flow of electricity and again can cause overheating. The solution was at connections, such as receptacles, switches, light fixtures, appliance connections, and at the panel. The solution was special connectors or total rewire.
Again, recycling over everything we talked about. Aluminum wiring has been around since the 19th century. In aluminum in homes, it's been used from the 1960s to 1970s. Because the copper wire was high in price at that time, that's when they used it. If you have copper, or if you think you might have aluminum wiring, or you just want to have us come by and give you a free estimate to take a look at it, feel free to give us a call. We can go and inspect it and give you some options, what needs to happen. Again, when it extracts and expands, that's when issues can happen, overheating. And then we have our 3 terms that we have going on here: a softer wire creeping and also rust. And yeah, so that concludes everything. Thank you so much for tuning in for aluminum wiring. Feel free to give us a call at 949-877-4945, and also like us on Facebook. We'd love to take care of you. Have a great day.